Hi, and welcome to the second in our series of Meet the Worldwide Wanderer, or in our case tonight, the Worldwide Wanderers. We've moved on from New Zealand now, and we're now back in the United States, and in particular in the Midwest region, Colorado Springs. We're going to talk now to Ken and Annie Coffman. Ken and Annie is welcome to Wanderers TV and Wycombe Sound. I hope you find you well this afternoon with you, and obviously, thank you for taking the time to speak to us. So I'd like to begin, if I can, Ken, if you would sort of give us a rough idea how you found Wycombe Wanderers in the first place and how you've gone on now to embrace them as your English club going forward.
Yeah, I would say back in the probably mid-1990s, I developed an interest in soccer on this side of the pond, football in the UK, in Europe, the rest of the world. And I followed the Mexican League actually initially, and I think it was more around the FA Cup competition. I got some exposure. We subscribed to a satellite service at the time that broadcast the FA Cup. I think it was through Fox Sports here in the U.S. And I just developed an appreciation for the English game, the level of play across all the different leagues, from Premier all the way down to League Two and even into the non-league. I felt was exceptional. And I used to follow Sky Sports News just to try to, start to follow the different leagues and all. And I noticed that there was this club called Wycombe that had recently gained promotion into League One from League Two. It's just my quirk. I'm not the kind of guy that tends to follow the teams at the very tops of the leagues, whatever sport I follow. I kind of find interest in the teams that are maybe mid-level or what have you. And anyway, the Wycombe story just seemed very impressive to me. They gained promotion. It was back in the days when Gary Waddock was the manager. And so I followed them through that season. They ended up getting relegated, unfortunately, but it was the following season where Gary basically picked up again for maybe a month and a half or so. And then he was let go, unfortunately. And that's when Gareth assumed the mantle of player manager, and actually would sub himself in at times during the games, and it was just fascinating. I had not seen a club that kind of functioned that way, with the player manager dynamic and just the energy and the players and the level of play. I thought was superb. I didn't get a chance to watch them back in those days because we didn't have any video feeds, unfortunately, in League Two back then, but I did end up subscribing to Player HD back then, and I would get up every morning, kind of like I do now, on Saturdays or midweek. We watch them during midday here in the U.S., but I would listen to their Phil Catchpole and others that would be broadcasting the games from these different arenas in the UK, and just listen to the live audio and follow them that way.
That's really interesting. And so really you didn't get a real understanding much in those early days for the surroundings that the football was being played in, even.
That's right. Exactly.
Wow, that's really unusual, because we take it for granted, being British football fans. You see it everywhere, but from your perspective, it must have been quite a revelation then when a few years later you actually had the first opportunity to actually see the games as well as listening to them. So, for instance, I would imagine that would be early eye follow, would it?
Yeah, early eye follow. The cable service that we subscribe to, or satellite service through Fox Sports, I think occasionally would broadcast. Well, I could see them maybe through FA Cup games, because they would broadcast some of the FA Cup games. Occasionally they would have a League One, League Two match, but it was very rare. So yeah, absolutely. iFollow was really my first opportunity to, other than watching highlights, via, I think Player had highlights back then. And then of course they were on YouTube, I think, in some cases as well. So I was able to it was like a discovery mode for me, just trying to learn what the stadium looked like, and the pitch and the different grounds around the country and all. But certainly iFollow was a revelation, because it certainly added that visual aspect that I had been missing up to that point.
And we appreciate the advent of social media, because now we like watching the Groundhopper, blogs. It's fun to watch the different grounds in the UK.
Yeah. And Annie, I believe that the pair of you have a local team. Again, going back to what you just said, Ken, very much the underdog type teams, not an MLS team. I believe they're called the Switchbacks. And I've done my research since we last spoke. And I believe they play in very similar colours to Wycombe as well.
Absolutely.
Sky blue and black this time, though.
Yeah, their colors are now, they actually were red, white, and blue, with mostly black and blue when they first started out in 2015 in the USL Championship, which is our Division 2 behind the MLS, right, in ranking. And they switched when they built a stadium downtown, a state-of-the-art stadium, to the cyan blue and black. And so it's very similar colors and very similar feel. You were talking the other day about community involvement and knowing the players by name and getting to know the club members. And that's very much what we share here with the Switchbacks.
That's interesting to hear. So do you actually have discussions with your fellow Switchback supporters about your connection with Wycombe and what you hear and learn from across the pond?
Absolutely. And we have some transplants from overseas that are here, friends that have local clubs they follow, both in the Premier and the League One and League Two. So it's fun to share our experiences of following our English teams from over here.
Oh, that's really interesting. And I've got to say, I do admire your backdrop, and I'm led to believe the other side is all set up for the Switchbacks. So yes. I've got to admire your dedication to the cause.
Yes. You know, we really feel it's important to support your local clubs. I think everyone in the community should support the clubs. They bring the community together, and they do so much to foster that friendship with your neighbors.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Although if you're talking to someone who lives sort of 160 miles away from my home club, and I would disagree, of course, but the bottom line is I first came across being a Wycombe fan through being a local and being based in that area, and life has taken me away. So yes, I've continued to support Wycombe, very much like you're talking about my home club. And I get reminded every week that I should be supporting the local team down here, but no chance.
It's that loyalty, right?
That's right.
That's right. It's really interesting listening to how it's developed over the years for yourselves. But how would you say things have changed in sort of the last 18 months since Wanderers TV's come on board, and obviously Phil Catchpole's become a staple of the team now, a bona fide member within the club structure as well. And also about the organisations like I'm involved with, the Wycombe Sound and so on, where they're providing additional services to the club. The Wycombe Wanderers show on a Thursday evening is recorded on a Thursday evening, etc. Do you get that sense that the club's really trying to embrace the support wherever it is around the world?
Absolutely. Yeah. Since the initiation of Wycombe Wanderers TV, the amount of content that's available, moving from the iFollow kind of canned content that follows from club to club. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was great compared to what I was what I had access to in the past, but the the previews, being able to join an hour ahead of the game and kind of listen to the lineups and sizing up the opponent from the commentator's perspective, the post game interviews with the managers and with the players, the amount of deep visibility into this whole process when Gareth left. And kind of how that all went out, and that fly on the wall kind of bird's eye view into the room when it was announced to the players, and how everybody reacted, and the amount of affection and good luck and best wishes, and I hadn't seen anything like that for a club. And so really the combination of Wanderers TV and also Wycombe Sound with the the amount of lead up and kind of post follow up, and even the halftime commentary, it's really been great. It's really expanded the coverage for Wycombe.
And, you know, I really appreciate what the Cougs have brought to the club. Rob and Misty coining, you know, worldwide Wycombe phenomenon, you know, opening up your marketing to being able to allow the worldwide fans to get memorabilia. We wouldn't have a backdrop like this without their involvement. So it's been great. It really has.
I really appreciate that, because one of the things that a club of our size struggles with always is going to be finances at the end of the day, and to be able to expand your fan base and quite vociferously, really, in the short period of time that you know, Wanderers TV and the Cougs have been in place is quite extraordinary, because literally, if you look at a world map at the moment, there's not many places, you know, in general areas that we haven't got a presence now. I'm not saying it wasn't there before, but perhaps now it's been highlighted. And what I'm finding is we talk to people from the Mexico, for instance, from South America or whatever, and football is really taken seriously there, or soccer in your terms, and the one little seed is sowing 5 or 6 more around them. You know, they go down to their own local club, like you would down to the Switchbacks, for instance, and they'll chat with their friends about their English club. And then miraculously, they like you said, they're after merchandise, they're after scarves, flags, and so on and so forth. So I really can see the commercialization aspects that the Cougs have brought in, and how much it's improved our standing beyond the shores of the UK.
Well, and with social media, you mentioned earlier, do I share my love for the Wycombe with my local fans that are Trailheads members for our supporter group of the Switchbacks? Through that group, I actually connected with some folks that are in California that support Wycombe. Through social media, Twitter, Instagram, I've connected
with
in Denver too. Somebody in Denver, somebody in Oklahoma. I mean, it's really great that we have stateside fans that are Wycombe fans.
Yeah, definitely. And by the way, there's some in Ohio as well, if you go looking, by the way.
Yes, yes.
And Delaware as well. Just to put it into perspective, you know, even
it's across the US.
Yeah, even in areas that I wouldn't call necessary sporting areas traditionally. But it's really
and the sport
interesting.
is gaining momentum over here.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear what you're saying, and you were saying when we spoke earlier in the week, Annie, about the fact that in 2020 you were planning to visit to see the boys play live, etc., and how you've had to put that off. I'm hoping that you will have a chance, as you intimated earlier in the week, 23-24, to see you over here and actually give you the opportunity to become part of the family in a literal sense. Yeah. I'm sure you'll be welcome with open arms, and obviously let us know what your itinerary plans are, and I'm sure Phil and the rest of the boys at the club will look to do the best they can for you going forward.
We're excited about that. We're just waiting on the boys that decided they wanted to make the trip with us, and we're waiting on their passports. So if we don't make it for the end of this season, probably the launch of next season.
Right. So you'll be welcome with open arms, that's for sure. I like to wrap up really with what you get in terms of supporting Wycombe. As you know, we talk about it from my perspective, and a lot of fans, we grew up in the town and everything else. But I think what I really want to get down to is how Wycombe, unlike a lot of other clubs, have been able to capture your hearts and bring you to the table and want to support the club.
I think it's the grittiness, the style of play. You know, I spend time in the forum, in the fan boards and different things, and Wycombe sometimes takes a knock for how they play. Honestly, I don't. I mean, their style of play is very effective. So you can say what you like, but it works. And honestly, I don't see any huge difference. Of course, I'm a little biased, right? So I'm a fan, but I think their style of play, I think what Gareth provided and what Matt Bloomfield's going to continue with, that level of play. I know they had a little bit of a setback yesterday, but they'll be back on again Tuesday for sure. But I think it's that. The other thing was just the just kind of the history and how the trust works and how the Kuigs. It was very clear that the amount of open disclosure, the amount of that family aspect, like you said, where even in the leanest of times. You all were highlighting people that would come to the ground, that would sacrifice their time, to clean up and people whose lives revolved around Wycombe. I mean, for us, we are thousands of miles away, but it's part of our morning Saturday routine. It's 8 a.m. our time. So, it's something we look forward to. I've got another flag. I hang it over the mantelpiece. Right next to the television, and we lead our own little individual chants of "Come on, you Blues" and Wanderers and all that kind of thing. Just a couple of us. So I mean, it's just I guess it's really like any fan experience, but certainly the way I think Wycombe kind of conducts itself, how it's manages finances, even through the lean years, the decisions that have been made, the addition of the Kuigs, and kind of just that history. And how they've risen up in their style of play. To me, just and I've always loved the color quartered color scheme as well. So it's just kind of the whole package,
From my perspective, you mentioned the other day characters. Of course, the Beast. Right, pops right to your head as someone that you follow. Gareth playing as a player, Matt, all of them that have gone on to do other things now or doing something more for the club. And now we're building new ones, with Vokes. And it's just, Joe has been around for so long. We love seeing him play. It's just, we're getting to know names and players, and I'm loving the new crop of players that are coming up. So we're excited for the club. I think they have a lot of potential.
Yeah, it's a class act. I mean, Gareth was a class act. Matt's a class act. You listen to the players. There's no prima donnas or anything like that. I mean, it's just pure class. The whole package, the club and the players, etc. Yeah.
Well, I've got to say thank you once again, Ken and Annie, for coming on and giving us your version of how you became a Wycombe Wanderers fan. We're delighted to have you as part of the Wycombe Wanderers family, and hopefully we'll see you in the not too distant future down at AP. As I say, I hope you heard the shout out yesterday. You did. And hopefully you didn't get deafened too much with the tannoy that was causing us all sorts of problems yesterday. But thanks once again. It's greatly appreciated. And hopefully we'll see you, as I say, at AP very shortly. And we look forward to it.
Same here. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All the best.
All right.
Bye.
Take care.